Check, check. Sarah, can you hear me?
Yep, now we can. Perfect.
I didn't have the microphone on before.
Okay. How many total seats, because that vacant position counts towards quorum?
We have 6 on the board right now and 1 vacant, so we normally have 7.
Okay, so 4 would count even with the vacant. Okay, perfect.
Just to give you all an update, we're at 3, so we're not at quorum yet.
Are we waiting on somebody, Rochelle?
Yeah, there were 2 that were planning to join us. There's Susan. So one other, and Vanessa will be joining us too, but we've got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 with Susan.
Mhm.
Rachel and Vanessa are supposed to join us virtually.
Does anyone happen to have their cells so you could say, hey, just making sure we're coming?
Okay, here comes Vanessa, so that'll put us at 4. Yeah, let me count one more time.
Perfect.
Susan, Vanessa, Rebecca, Scott. 4. Yep.
All right, it is 6 o'clock on Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. We're going to call to order the meeting of the Council on Family Resource Centers. Item 1.02 is roll call.
Okay. Rebecca Paris. Here. Scott Benton.
Here.
Vanessa Van Coor.
Here.
Rachel Kingham. Sherilyn Elcano. Susan Sievert.
I'm here.
Thank you. It's good to hear your voice, Vanessa and Susan. We're going to move on to item 2, which is items for presentation, discussion, information, and possible action. Item 2.01 is approval of the minutes from September 21, 2022 meeting of the Council on Family Resource Centers. I'm looking for any amendments to the minutes or a motion to approve those minutes. Can we reflect that Rachel is here? She is present via Teams. Hello, Rachel.
Scott, it's Susan. I will move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Is there a second?
Rebecca, I second.
Thank you, Rebecca. With that, we have a motion from Susan and a second from Rebecca. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Wait, Mike. No, well, wait. Let's make sure there's no public comment.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
There is none.
Thank you. With that, we will vote on the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to item 2.02, which is for possible action. It's a presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District Family Resource Center's funding status, including the status of grant applications and possible action to provide recommendations to the staff on scheduling, future fundraising, and publicity activities. So I'm going to turn it over to our staff liaison.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Rochelle Morrell for the record. Just a brief update. We continue to have our 5 locations open. We've been doing a lot of work, been very busy with them. We have recently gotten a generous donation from a private funder that funds us about $50,000 in a private foundation that we typically use for kind of unusual requests. Sometimes we use it for emergency rental assistance. We've used them for a variety of other just emergency sorts of things that some of our state and federal grants don't allow us to use for. So we were happy to see that. We currently have quite a few of our staff that are ESSER funded. And then we have staff through Department of Health and Human Services. So a variety of grants that we continue on. Lisa and Wiley worked really hard on reporting this last month. We've got some SNAP updates of utilizing SNAP funds for staff when they're doing and completing SNAP applications. So there's a variety of different grants that we are potentially utilizing. And I also wanted to put this out because this is something that this board has been interested in terms of fundraising. This agenda item is a possible action item. We've discussed in the past ideas around this, and so we wanted to put this out to see sort of the feeling of this council again and any potential fundraising activities that the council is interested in discussing further.
Thank you, Rochelle. I'll turn it over to the council so we can have some discussion. Is there anybody who wants to throw out some ideas? I know it's been a constant conversation. Normally I'd look to Vanessa for some guidance, so I'm looking at the VV on my screen over here to see what kind of ideas Vanessa has. Those have been the conversations that we've had in the past.
Hi, this is.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, I'm actually on my way, so I'll see at least you in person, a couple of you in person. But I think we talked about having this as a standing item, right? Is that the reason? Like it gets to be explicitly brought up?
Yeah, that's correct. And we. I think you all expressed some interest in if we wanted to do something, you all wanted to do something to actually put it as an action item so you could vote on it.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay. I think before going into ideation would be around like a specific need. Because I think if there is something specific we can fundraise for, whether it's a dollar amount or a service or a program or a position, that may help refine or define some of the ideas. So I'd be curious to know in a dream scenario, because we can always scale, right? What would be like the thing you would want to fundraise for?
I would ask some of the FRC directors to come up and provide some feedback too. My initial thought is we have in the past had grants where we could purchase gift cards for emergency needs of some sort. And that's no longer something that we can utilize our grants for. So gift cards, although can be difficult to track and nearly impossible to track exactly what they're being spent on when we have general things like grocery stores, like Walmart or those kinds of things. We can't monitor what they're actually spending the money on. But when people come in for needs around formula or diapers or those kinds of things, emergency needs, those gift cards can be very valuable. Gas cards right now with the cost of gas for specific needs. If they're needing to go to a doctor's visit or those kinds of things, gas cards can be extremely valuable too. So we have some restrictions around our grants that we haven't had before and aren't able to utilize those funds for some of those just kind of more unusual needs sometimes that come up. So, and I don't know if anyone else wants to comment, feel free to, but that's kind of my initial thoughts around that.
This is Rachel Kingham, and I'm wondering, what has fundraising looked like previously?
Rachel, we have not typically historically done actual fundraisers. We apply for grants, and the bulk of our funding comes from state and federal grants, and some foundation grants.
So if, just so I understand, because I know there's the very strict rules about the committee members meeting as a group, if we had ideas for fundraising, would they be potentially like we'd have the idea, but someone else would do the fundraising as we can't collectively do that? I'm just trying to clarify.
So, Rochelle, your light's off. I'll answer part of it really quick. So this was really an agenda item that I brought forward because I wanted the council to be more involved, and this was one way I felt we could be more involved. I think there are ways to legally avoid that. Working with the legal counsel, we can publicly notice that all of us will be at a fundraising event to avoid that. We just can't have that. All four of us can't be combined in one area talking about something that could possibly be something that we take action on. So we would have to really minimize the exposure of the council at these fundraisers, but also maximize the potential of us being involved. And if that means that all 7 of us are there, we just can't be there discussing something that's on an agenda later. We have to be there with the purpose of the fundraising event and not making decisions in that public body.
Yes, thanks, Scott. This is Sarah Montalvo, General Counsel, School District. And yeah, I would echo what Scott said too. And then to your question about the actual doing, you guys could do that as volunteers, but the staff members would take the laboring oar of the actual fundraising actions and everything. And these would be more recommendations to the staff on what you as a committee feel are kind of priorities for you, but then our district staff would be moving forward with that and probably maybe utilize you guys as volunteers, or if you just want to see it kind of in action, you just cannot be collectively doing quorum and deliberations at any events that you would attend.
Good evening, this is Brenda Costello. I'm with the Sun Valley and the Feimster Family Resource Center. So I'm going to speak a little bit about kind of piggybacking on what Rochelle said about need. So I think we could look at it at like small, medium, large. So small would be maybe collecting quarters and laundry pods. So just a small kind of thing, because we often have families that need help with that. Medium might be some of the gift cards. Again, we have a brand new center at Hug and a new one at O'Brien. The center at Hug moved quite a few miles, and our families are really struggling getting kids there. So gas cards, bus passes, maybe Uber vouchers. And then large would be fundraising for a salary position or rent. Rent is crazy, and landlords are done working with families. And so as far as ideas for fundraising, I'm going to sign off now. That's not my forte. So. But we do appreciate everything this committee does for us and keeping us in the thoughts as far as, so, but that's my thoughts. Small, medium, and large would be everything from maybe start off small, do a laundry pod, quarter, detergent kind of fundraiser and see what the appetite is and move forward. So thank you.
I would like to update the council and let you know that we have previously reported to you that we applied for the community school grant. And we were hoping to utilize that for continued funding for at least one position in the Family Resource Center. And we did not get that grant and found out about that just recently. So that's something where we're going to need to rally and think about how do we identify funding to continue some of the staff positions that we currently have that will potentially end in June 30th of this year.
So maybe my question to you, Rochelle, is would it be worth a conversation with those that are in the grant department to not push for more, but to be creative? I know that there's ongoing conversations with the ESSER funding and the ARPA funding and all of that, and should be
Yeah, I
known
know.
that I fight for the Family Resource Centers every chance that I get, but maybe in a group setting, they're not hearing my voice, and maybe the three of us can meet with me, you, and Lisa, or me, you, and somebody can meet with, is it Laura?
Yeah.
Lauren?
Lauren Olin, I will say Lauren is an incredible champion for Family Resource Centers. So if there is a grant that's appropriate for us, she is helping us to apply for it. And she is continually trying to put us in ESSERs or other pockets of money because she understands the importance of the work. So I don't think that's lacking at all in the grants department, is just trying to find the right grant. And sometimes there's grants out there, but there may not be like the right fit for what the mission is for the Family Resource Center. So it's just finding the right grant, but the grant that's going to continue on, that's not just for 1 year.
Right.
Because it's really great when we have funding, but to start a Family Resource Center with 1 year of funding, in my personal opinion, is unethical, because we're starting and becoming a part of a community, and then we pull the funding and now we're not there any longer. And so we are trying to be really thoughtful in the grants that we are going for, and we're looking for ones that have some longevity in them, so that we can truly be a part of the community.
And I know I ask this all the time. There's other Family Resource Centers throughout the state of Nevada, and they don't use school district funding. What funding resource do they have that maintains their resource centers? Because we're the only one that goes through the school district is Washoe County, correct?
So let me just clarify, we don't utilize any general funds
Right.
from the school district. So we are not taking any funding from the school district. It's completely grant funded. We're under the umbrella, and they provide us support in terms of HR supports, risk management supports, those kinds of business types of support. So
Okay.
there is a financial component to it that's beneficial to us. But in terms of the funding for our programs and our staff, they're completely grant funded. So they're essentially the same as any other Family Resource Center.
Okay.
In Nevada, it's all grant funded. And it's typically through Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay.
Rachel Kingham again. A question with fundraising. Is it possible to work within the school district to fundraise? For instance, doing or creating a fundraiser that takes place at the schools?
It's possible. I probably need to understand a little bit more about what you're thinking about, but it's possible to do something like that. It just kind of depends on the nature of the fundraiser and how we would go about doing it. But I will say that our communications department has been incredibly supportive of our Family Resource Centers, so I'm sure they would be on board in terms of getting the word out with anything also. So I can't say that for sure because they're not here to represent themselves, but they've been incredibly supportive.
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of when my kids have fundraising, selling of cookie dough, and things like that, county-wide, where kids were maybe, I think mentioned something about quarters and laundry pods, and thinking of, which school collects the most quarters or laundry pods are donated, that type of thing. I didn't know if it was possible to do with all the schools, or if it would only be something that the specific locations that had family resource centers would be able to be involved in.
Yeah, I think it would just be a coordination of working with those schools or identifying areas maybe that we could work within those areas of where the Family Resource Center serves, just so that they see sort of the connection of why we're fundraising for that area potentially. I think that that's something we could probably talk through. It would just take a little coordination.
And I would see it as the flip side of things, that where there isn't a family resource center is probably our target of getting them involved, because they don't necessarily have the social economic impact that the families that serve Hug High School do. Maybe where there isn't one at McQueen or in the McQueen area, maybe targeting them to help contribute to so it's even across the board. Is that making sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Because
yeah.
I feel like if we
Yeah.
pull from the Family Resource Center areas, they're already struggling,
Yeah.
and then they're going to struggle to contribute because they want to. But if we do a quarter drive and a laundry pod drive in different areas, and then one, it'll get the name of the Family Resource Centers out, which I think this council really wants to see our name out there so that we are publicized, not necessarily to recruit new business because we have enough business to keep us going, but letting them know that we're out there in case something does happen, because let's be honest, disasters happen across all social economic statuses.
Right.
And maybe the people in the Galena area don't know about a family resource center because there's not one in their geographical area.
Mm-hmm.
So I see it as a win-win that we contribute. I think what Rachel is saying, district-wide, everybody will understand the impact of the family resource centers, and those that are served by the family resource centers won't have to contribute as much.
Right. Yep, makes sense.
And I'm willing to throw a pizza party for the class that raises the most dollars and quarters. I will find pizza. I've learned bribery works with kids. Just for the record, Vanessa Van Cor is here in person, no longer on Teams, at 6:18. So great conversation. I think looking for an action item isn't appropriate tonight. I just want to continue to have the conversation. Rochelle, do you want an action item from us?
Not unless that's where the council wants to move towards.
Vanessa, go for it.
Yes, Vanessa Mancor for the record. I think we should, because this is a first effort, like we have the potential, like we should just play big and dream big, like go for the biggest thing. And because we've never done awareness building to this level, like I think what I'm afraid of, because we meet infrequently, is I don't want to lose like momentum and energy, which is the whole reason we got this on the agenda anyway. So I would love to think of a way to have an action as a way to like move this forward, because I think we can ideate all day long and that's great, but I feel like this is a storytelling opportunity, like an awareness building piece, and maybe it is fundraising for a general fund that like serves a bunch of different needs, like gift cards and laundry, and that speaks to impact, right? Because I think the story that could be told is how communities move forward as a result of family resource centers, right? Like one of my clients is a nonprofit, and I was working with a donor recently who used the word handouts. It was like this perception of like, oh, these people are just, which for me is like a bad word, but it gave me insight into how people think and the importance of telling the stories of like how families graduate out of situations, and this idea that they are in temporary situations, not a permanent lived experience. So my brain is thinking about like this incredible story we have to tell, the ability to fundraise and think big and play big, and maybe it isn't an event specifically, maybe it's more of a campaign that has opportunities to fundraise around big things. But I think my point in this ramble is that I don't want to lose the energy and momentum, and I'd like to find a way to I don't know, next meeting, we propose ideas or in whatever way we can brainstorm and maybe just have a commitment to come back to the next meeting with concrete ideas, or we commit to pitching ideas to the staff in the meantime, or I don't know. I just don't want to lose momentum.
Rochelle, I hate to put you on the spot. Do you know when our next meetings are? We have one in April, and then we don't meet again until the fall, correct?
Looks like March 15th is our next, and then March, April, May, sometime in May, I believe. Yeah. So we'll have 2 more meetings before the end of the school year.
I have a question. So if we want to do like a general fund type of thing, how will the money be spent across, will they be spent across all of them? And how will that be done? Or will we be
So what generally
focusing-
happens, and if this is an action item, this is something that the council can decide. So if we get a donation, let's just say, for example, we get a donation, we ask the funders to give us insight into how they want us to spend the funding. So if we get $2,000 to spend on a food pantry, that's solely what that money is spent on. If we get funding and they say it's unrestricted, spend it on anything that you want, then we'll use it for emergency needs. So it's really up to those that are potentially doing the fundraising. If this council decides we want this to be spent only on gift cards, then that account will be open within our grants department. They monitor what we're spending our funding on. We have a gift card process that we utilize to track the gift cards that we're distributing. So there's some processes that we utilize to track those kinds of things, but it's really the funder determines what they want the money to be spent on in these kinds of non-grant situations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if we had, let's say, an auction, just an idea, then as the committee or the council, then we would say we want it to go to a certain amount to each center, or would we say we want to focus on one thing and then how, again, like, I'm just wondering how it's going to be distributed between all of them.
I think from the PR point of view, which is Vanessa's forte, we would want to decide that up front so that we can attract people for that reason. So if it is for the gift cards or if it's for the laundry, we decide that before, as we set our parameters of the fundraiser. So it would be part of that action item, so it's built into that public.
And when we get funds, it's typically across all centers, unless, for example, you'll be hearing from me in the agenda later that if we have maybe a family that lives in North Valleys and they're really interested in supporting families in the North Valleys and they give us money for a food pantry for the O'Brien Middle School Family Resource Center, that's different because that's their intent to just support families in that area. But when we get general donations, they go into an account where all Family Resource Center sites have access to.
Thank you. So I'll turn it over to the council if there is any action item for this agenda item. If not, we will close the item and move on. So here's what I would like to propose is knowing that we have 2 meetings before the school year is over, that we have some concrete detail about what this action item will look like by the May meeting. So that gives us time to converse with communications and maybe converse with the grants department to see if there's anything that maybe there's a grant out there that requires $20,000 matching. And that's what we really raise the money for, is to match that grant. I know Lauren does amazing work, and it just, if we constantly have that conversation with her, maybe it'll spark her interest that something came up that she kind of just pushed aside and didn't realize would be good for us. And knowing that we did not get the community and schools grant, maybe this will help us a little bit more with the urgency and the understanding that we have 5 resource centers that we need to maintain viability and sustainability. And it needs to be more than, I appreciate ESSER funds, I really do, but it's scary. It's going away, and what's going to happen to those families that we serve? The services that we provide to them are going to go away because of funding. And so if there's something that we can do, and if it's me bugging somebody, I will.
So is there an action item out of this by May?
That-
Sorry, Rachel Kingham.
Yes, Rachel.
Is there a public list of funders and grants that the FRC has gotten?
We don't post it publicly, but I certainly can send it to you.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's somewhere, I don't want to send you on a wild goose chase, Rachel, but I think it's somewhere in our minutes at the beginning of the fiscal year. Around May is when we were told what grants are applied for, and then at the first meeting of the school year, they report on what grants were actually allocated and awarded to the Family Resource Center. So if you get bored and go through some of our minutes, it's in there too.
Would that also include any private funders? Not anonymous private funders, but private funders that are willing to be named. So maybe like I'm thinking of big donors I've come across, which are like private family foundations or, construction companies, things like that.
Yes.
So the action, I don't necessarily think it's an action item. It was more of a thought that to give us a realistic goal. We talk about it and then we forget about it because we don't meet. So by May, that would give us the opportunity to have some concrete details, just you and I to work through some things. As vague as that is.
Yeah.
But meeting with the various, I don't want to provide direction to you. I want to provide support to you.
Okay. Sounds good.
And hearing what Sarah said, being that the Family Resource Centers are going to have to do the leg of the work, I want to make sure that it's worth the time that we're taking away from them in the resource centers.
If I can add,
Absolutely.
Vanessa Vancouver. Is Family Resource Center Days always in May? Because I have in my notes from time ago that it's May 15th.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to, again, I do want to have an action item because I want to have like a thing to do that we all commit to.
Throw it out there and we'll vote on it.
I mean, does it make sense to have an action item where we pitch ideas by the March meeting that we can evaluate and we can consider if having something for the May 15th, again, it doesn't have to be this large scale thing, but I think we have an opportunity with Family Resource Center Day to do some storytelling and campaign awareness building. I would love to see us bring some ideas to the March meeting for discussion. So that would be my action item.
And who is
So-
But
sorry,
the-
that would probably be contrary to the agendized item. And I don't think you actually need a motion to do that. I think that can just be kind of, part of the discussion. And then I think everyone here will know that that's kind of the marching orders, and the discussion, but I don't think you need an action item for that. And we just want to make sure we're sticking on the agenda. So if you don't have actual recommendations at this, anything else will be outside of the agenda.
Sarah, just to clarify, if council members brought, excuse me, into the March meeting potential ideas, and there was one that stood out to the group that they really liked and wanted to move forward to in March, could they vote on one of those to move forward on?
Yeah, we would probably just re-agendize this exact thing.
Okay.
And then they could just make that motion then.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Is there any other discussion? Great discussion. I think this is a constant on the forethought of our brain is how can we help increase revenue for the resource center. So I appreciate the conversation always happening. Okay, we will close that item and move on to item 2.03, which is for presentation and discussion only. It is the presentation and discussion of the new Washoe County Family Resource Center sites at O'Brien Middle School and Proctor R. Hug High School to include the cost of funding a Family Resource Center site.
Okay, I guess this is me again. Okay, so as you all know, we did open up the O'Brien Middle School Family Resource Center. I'll start with that one. That one's opened in August. We've got Jessie. I'll make her stand up because she's out there. with
Jesse.
Edith. She's been doing a ton of work out there, building really strong partnerships. And I used that food pantry example. You can sit down. You don't have to stand the whole time. I use that example because she recently did get a small grant to start a food pantry out there specifically for, and I'll invite her up here to kind of talk to if she wants to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but she got a small grant to start a food pantry at the Family Resource Center in O'Brien, specifically to serve families out there. And as you know, or you may not know, if you've been out to North Valleys, that's really a resource desert out there. And there are not resources out in the North Valleys, and it's been particularly impacted by transportation as well, because the city fair doesn't go out to the North Valleys. So to get into town, you must have transportation of your own. Otherwise, you're really stuck out there. And many of our resources that Reno does have, especially around mental health, is in town. It is not out in the North Valleys. So Jessie has done a lot of work in trying to develop partnerships out there. She's developed partnerships with the LDS Church out there. She has a clothes closet going on out there, and now a food pantry. That funding will help to provide access to fresh food items. Food pantries are amazing, but a lot of times they're canned foods, they're dry foods, and so and they're not always because of the nature of food pantries, they're not always culturally appropriate. And Rebecca and I were talking about this the other day. So they're not always food that families would maybe have as mainstays or staples in their diet culturally. And so this will allow her to diversify that food pantry a little bit. So really happy with the work going on there. They're really, really busy all the time. And they're in that new building out there. If you haven't been out to the O'Brien Middle School Family Resource Center, I'm sure she'd love to host you all and show you around. It's a beautiful building. And what I love about that building is there's a separate entrance into that Family Resource Center, so that when families are coming to access or individuals are coming to access resources, there's a private entrance for them to go in, and it keeps their dignity intact and their privacy intact. And I'll talk to you a little bit about HUG, because we have the opposite thing going on at HUG. And that's been a little bit of a challenge at HUG. So let's talk about HUG. HUG has been an amazing building also. We started over there recently. Brenda and Wiley help support that. Lisa does too. That one has been, it's a beautiful center, and it's right smack dab in the middle of the school. The problem with that school, or the challenge I would say, not problem, is it's a single point of entry school. So when families are coming in there, they have to go through the office, and then they have to walk past the office into that main area. That has created some reluctance to come in and utilize that Family Resource Center, because there isn't that privacy when coming into the HUG Family Resource Center. So Brenda and I, and actually everybody was there, recently met with HUG staff, the counselor, the principal, and we're really trying to brainstorm, how do we figure this out? Because they recognize this is an issue too. They don't have a separate entrance. It's just the way the building is constructed. It's a brand new building, and it wasn't meant to have a center like a Family Resource Center there. And so we're trying to overcome those challenges. We have a meeting actually on Friday, and we're calling it Meeting of the Minds. And we're trying to figure out, how do we get the word out to families within that community, but also how do we make sure that school staff are aware of those resources. Communities and schools are also located in there. They also have a family graduation advocate, and a FACE liaison, which is another family advocate. And so there's a lot of folks in there, and there are some gaps in resources there, and there's some duplication. And so we're trying to figure out communication patterns, what our roles are in there, and then how do we utilize communication to make sure counselors know where to direct a family when they come in for specific things. Do they need to go to the FACE liaison? Do they need to go Family Resource Center? Or do they need to go to communities and schools? Or are we all working collectively to support this family? So those are some challenges within that site. Because it's a new building, because they have, I think, something like 600 more students than they did last year, which is a whole elementary school, and new staff and the challenges around the building. So that one has been a little bit more difficult to just kind of figure out how do we do a family resource center in here. I will tell you that we've had lots of conversations with our capital projects folks, and they are very interested in trying to figure out how they look at buildings, new construction, and incorporating this sort of separate entrance into new buildings, but also ensure that students are still safe, that there is a single point of entry, because that's the concern. And at Desert Skies, the Family Resource Center is locked off from the rest of the school to ensure the safety of the students so that no one can just walk straight into a school. Because obviously there's a lot of concerns around student safety right now. So it's a little bit of a juggling act of trying to figure out how do we protect the privacy of our families, but also ensure the safety of our students within our buildings as we move forward. Oh, I think I have reported to you all the actual cost of a family resource center is about $120,000.
For 1 year.
Yes. And the bulk of that are staff salaries. Any questions?
So in your conversations with capital projects, knowing that there's the barrier at the Family Resource Center at Hug, but not the barrier at O'Brien, what are some of the conversations that, I mean, because I look at the Family Resource Center at Worcester and it's its own building.
Yeah.
So has that been brought up to maybe help the Hug location as an option?
Not yet. So we're still kind of in the preliminary talks of how do we just figure out communication there, because there are so many different resources there. We're trying to figure out how do we fix sort of that internal communication. Okay. How do we get the word out to families that the Family Resource Center is there since it's so new? And then how do we welcome them in? So we're just sort of trying to figure these things out, but that is something that could potentially be discussed. I just don't know the property, if they could put additional buildings on there or what that would look like. So that's something we could look at in the future, depending on how we figure out these communication patterns too. I mean, there are about 1,200 families in that school, and then there's the surrounding community as well. So there is a significant need there. It's just trying to figure out how do we communicate and welcome families in so that they feel welcome and comfortable accessing resources there.
And I think our history will show that the private entrance is probably every other site has a private entrance except for Hug. So I think, like you said, keeping their dignity intact and not having to parade through the school just to go get resources is probably mindful. Coming from the work that I do, most people want a private entrance. They don't want to be seen or heard. They just want the services. And how do we get them the services at Hug?
Right.
Good evening, Brenda.
Brenda Costello for the record. So there's kind of two schools of thought for that. So one of them is that it's a high school. And so high school kids don't even want you to make eye contact with them, let alone say that they have any issues. Part of the intervention department is our CIT program, which is our Children in Transition. We have many more children in transition identified in elementary school than in middle schools and high schools, not because there's more, but because they will disclose. Younger kids will tell you, I'm so excited, we slept in our car last night. The other issue is that As Rochelle already mentioned, it's a single point of entry, and when you walk in, it's bulletproof glass with like the speaker things. And oftentimes, Hug is short-staffed, as we all are, and so they'll have students working in the window, which is great, except so oftentimes we will have a family kind of come in and mumble, they told me to come here to get help with my power bill. Well, the student then is like, what are you taught, and so I've intercepted a few of those just walking by. It's not the student's fault, it's not the family's fault, it's just, and so, but Hug admin are definitely aware of that, and we've developed some talking points that we're trying to, so, but I can't blame the student. They're like, help with your power bill at the school, so, but again, high school students are just loath to uncover anything. So we're there's nothing wrong. We don't need any help. So when families have called and said they need help with a food box, or we'll put it in a nondescript backpack for them to take home. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'm hopeful in the conversations that you've had with capital projects that they recognize the pros and the cons of two schools being built in the same year, O'Brien and Hug, and Desert Skies just a few years ago, and having that, I don't want to keep saying the private entrance, but I think that entrance is key.
Yeah, they are very open to it. They've heard us talk a lot about it. And so they are really sort of thinking about this and in their planning and those kinds of things. And so, for example, if we got the community school grant, there was discussion on, okay, Sparks Middle School is an old school. How do we utilize that space? Does there need to be modules? And there was discussion around how could we utilize some space or add space to include a family resource center and a family area for families to congregate collectively at the school. And so they have been very open to discussing those kinds of things. We just haven't gotten to that point yet at Hug. My guess is that we probably will soon. So they are open to it, and I'm hopeful around that.
I have a question. Is the capital improvement committee the same as that other committee, or as the committee that's exploring which schools will be shut down and which ones will be rebuilt? Because there's like another committee, but it's the same one, right?
Well, so capital projects is like a department, but they're leading some of that. So they are a part of, they are a part of that. So I have been a part of those committee meetings, and Family Resource Center has come up a lot in those, in terms of, can we locate family resource centers in here? If they, utilize buildings differently, can something like a family resource center move into a building like that? So those are definitely things that have been discussed frequently in those meetings.
I probably don't say it enough. If you need my voice for something, please let me know. I will gladly come lend my voice to you.
Thank you, Chair Britton. I appreciate that.
Not that it's powerful or it means anything, but I think the more they hear it from different people, they might hear it differently. Any other comments or questions for Rochelle on item 2.03? Rachel?
Rachel. I just wanted to quickly say thank you to Brenda for providing that context. That's actually very, very good to know. So thank you.
Agreed. Okay, we will move on to item 2.04, which is presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District Family Resource Center 2022-2023 school year data and outreach events, including future community outreach events and volunteer opportunities.
Chair Britton, I did see Susan Sievert's hand up. I don't know if she had a comment.
Let's go back to, before we open this item, let's go over to Susan. Thank you.
Just real quick. So I guess, a couple years ago, to say that we would have a brand new FRC at both O'Brien and at Hug High, that made my heart sing, because, at that time we had basically Sun Valley and a couple others. So that's great. But I really think that we need to do a deep dive and also assist the staff with figuring out how we can communicate the Hug High site a little better, because it's a great place. It is sort of centralized. It's easy to get to, but it's just a matter of getting people, especially non-student parents, to actually use that. So I just wanted to put that input in there.
Thank you. And it reminded me of a conversation that I've had with Lisa about bringing back Sheila Leslie's information. I think that might be helpful as well. We really rely on some of these former legislators or former experts and former, I mean, she's always a champion, not former, but a champion of family resource centers. And maybe there's something in there that at a future meeting when we talk about that we can really pinpoint and see what might help this dedicated resource center. Thank you for that, Susan. I will open item 2.04 and turn it over to Jesse and Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Guzman for the record, and I would just like to quickly, before we talk about events, thank all of you so much for your dedication and your support and everything that you do for the Family Resource Center. It means a lot, and we really appreciate that. So we, as usual, have been busy and out and about, so we'll hit some of those highlights. I'll do a few and then turn it over to Jessie to talk about everything she's been doing out in the North Valleys. So all of our sites continue to have a SNAP outreach worker from the food bank come on site to help clients apply for SNAP, which is a huge help. They don't have to go to the welfare office. They get the interview, they get their benefits. It's a lot easier. It's a lot more friendly. So we are very happy to have that resource for our families. We attended, and actually today Catholic Charities was out at Sparks High School. They're there once a month to distribute food. That's going well. They did get rid of everything that they had brought today. We attended parent meetings at Elmcrest and Trainer. We attended a brown bag lunch of the Opportunity Alliance, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's like a spin-off from the United Way that focuses on building financial stability with families. So that's a really good resource, and we can refer families to them for like budgeting and guidance on how to better make ends meet. So we had our annual Thanksgiving and Christmas distributions in collaboration with Catholic Charities and the LDS Church and school staff. That went really well. This year, Jesse and I worked together with the Northwest Reno stake of the LDS Church, and we served between Catholic Charities and donations that came in from the church. I think it was 400-ish, over 400. And then Brenda partnered with the Spark stake, and Wiley partnered with the South Reno stake. So this is huge, and we're very thankful for these partnerships. It's also a really nice time for us to be able to connect with the school staff, because it's the counselors, the FACE liaisons that are coming out to pick up the bags and boxes to take back to the schools for the families. So we're getting that FaceTime with the school staff, and it's just really great. And also this year, thanks to Jesse at Sparks, we also had the 4 Medicaid HMOs come out to share their information with the school staff that they could then take back to the families. So that was really nice too. We did an interview with the Telemundo Spanish TV station. We have had collaboration meetings with Molina Health Plan and Health Plan of Nevada. Wiley attended the task force meeting for CSEC, Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children, which ties to the funding from our Title IV-B grant. And we attended a subcommittee meeting for the Community Health Improvement Plan. Again, I have on here, oh, sorry about that. I have SNAP Outreach on here twice. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jessie, because as you will see, there are many North Valleys events listed that she will tell you about. Thank you.
Before we do, Lisa, in your conversations and collaboration with the Medicaid MCOs, have we asked them if they have grants we can apply for in collaboration of what they're doing?
That is actually in the works. We actually met with Health Plan of Nevada yesterday, and Jessie can comment on some things that she has in place out at North
Awesome,
Valleys.
thank you.
This is Jasenia Segura, Jesse, for the record. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you also to all of you guys here at the council for your support and always supporting us on everything that we do. Just a little bit to talk about the MCOs for Medicaid. They have been very supportive for a year now, a little over a year. They have been giving us many donations, in-kind donations, and now they have given us funds for our food pantry.
Awesome.
Molina Healthcare has been the most supportive and has given us $3,000 to kind of piggyback from what Rochelle has shared already to be able to offer more of a healthy vegetables, fruits, combinations, and culture awareness on fruits and vegetables. And Health Plan of Nevada has jumped also on the same wagon and has also approved another $3,000 to match also those same ideas on the food pantry. And now today we had a surprise guest from Silver Summit who also wants to join the wagon. So we're growing, and they want to also has started communication with the other 4 centers that they want to replicate the support that they have been doing with North Valleys with the other centers. So that's great news for all of us and mostly the community. They're going to have great options.
And the reason, sorry to interrupt, the reason I bring it up is Silver Summit just recently opened up a care center in downtown Reno.
Yes.
Right, for mental health, and I hear that mental health is hard to access in North Valley, so if we ask them for transportation in collaboration of what they're doing out at the Family Resource Centers, maybe that's an avenue to really open up some more conversation of
Yes.
what that resource center is lacking and how they can provide to it, because then it's people that can access some of their programs and other things that we can refer to from the resource centers.
For sure. I know this is just the beginning in regards to, because there's different needs in different communities and that we each oversee in our centers. So it's always a good positive starting point, beginning with the food pantry, and the conversations can always grow from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we're happy. North Valley Schools outreach have also continued throughout this year with fall events and winter events. We've gone to Stead Elementary, Innscoop Elementary, Lemon Valley, North Valleys, Gomes, and Desert Heights. We've also collaborated with the Community Health Alliance and Immunize Nevada, and we did a health festival around October. And we continued that same collaboration, and we did our own immunization clinic on December 7th. And then we also collaborated with Asian Community Development Council event. They do the same efforts as we do, and it was really great to learn more about the resources that they have available. And we work together in many outreach events, and they also support with SNAP application assistance. We collaborate with Nevada Energy for their expanded solar access program at the North Valleys. And we what that means is we help. They don't necessarily need to have a solar system installed in their home, but they can get the same benefits in regards of the clean energy that they do offer. So they get a credit starting this month of this year. We also we continue to collaborate with Project 150. We do exception events for middle school students to receive the same clothing and food assistance and hygiene assistance that usually high schoolers get every 4 months. We took the liberty to have 10 students from Cold Springs Middle School and O'Brien Middle Schools that are high risk when it comes to financial and clothing and basic needs. We also collaborated and did a lot of support and outreach with all the pantries around the North Valleys area. Catholic Charities has their own food pantry running over at Golden Valley. We go there every other Monday. And we also do second and fourth Monday at Desert Heights, which is where we started when we reopened the North Valleys Resource Center. We do also attend once a month at St. Michael's Church Food Pantry. It's really big. They get a lot of attendance. And based on those visitations we did throughout the year, we were able to capture ideas on how to run our own food pantry. So that has helped us all to understand how we can run a food pantry, which we started this December 2nd. We open it throughout the whole day, on every Friday. We also collaborate, again, like we said, with the Medicaid plans and Liberty Dental. They're very supportive. They give us a lot of tools in regards to how to give the assistance that we do in bags and tote bags and plastic bags. So we're able to have the families take home all the resources that they can get from our center. We did also do the vaccination clinic as we spoke. There also is a Nevada Energy Safe Board meeting that Brenda attended yesterday with updates that she shared with us. There were many high school outreach events as well, and there were the code distribution from the big Reno code drive, and also from the private medical office. Do you want to share the upcoming events? Do you want me to go ahead and do those? You can go. Okay. There's the coming webinar Wednesdays, and there's the link there for the National Family Support Network. And there's also going to be a collaboration along with Catholic Charities and their immigration legal services upcoming at the North Valleys in O'Brien. We're going to host free consults there from 1 o'clock and forward on Friday, February the 3rd. We will also attend the Gomes Elementary Night of the Arts events that they have coming up in February.
So something that I noticed that's not on here, and maybe it was on your last one, you guys attended the Homeless Alliance in Vegas, correct? And then the conference that was here in Reno? Yes. And while you did that, I went to the food bank place. They had a conference for the food bank, and hopefully you got a book that I sent over for you.
I did get it. Yeah,
Okay,
I
awesome.
have it. Thank you for that.
I just want to add something. I feel really bad. So the food pantry has also been supportive with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada. So they started the beginnings of the works, and they are supporting us as well with their healthy choices that we do pick up produce every Thursday. So I don't want to leave them out on that because they're giving us a lot of food donations as well.
And the food bank is still visiting different sites throughout the month to do pop-up food distributions.
Yes, for the mobile harvest.
Mobile harvest,
ladies.
correct. Thank you. Any questions from the council? You guys have your fair share of work, and I always ask what was your favorite event, so I'm going to be consistent.
I honestly, personally enjoy everything because I do like to hear the feedback from the community themselves and see, because I could assume what they need, but it's better to hear it from the source and to understand where they're coming from. So every outreach event, those are my favorites.
Awesome. Lisa?
I agree that they are all nice and they all bring good information, and it's nice to be able to connect with the community. However, since we just passed the holidays, I really enjoyed the Thanksgiving distribution.
Awesome. I know I speak for myself and hopefully the council, but we enjoy seeing all the events that you guys go to, and I know that it's no easy job, and you guys are well versed in a lot of resources, and this goes to show that you guys are continuing those relationships with the community, and it's important. It's the community that's going to help us solve the problem.
Chairman, I see Susan Sievert's hand up, and I do want to say really quick that the Big Reno Coat Drive has been an incredible partner and has donated about 3,000 brand new coats to our students and families. So
Awesome.
it's been, and they've done that last year too for us. They are incredible. Lindsay is amazing. So wanted to publicly thank them.
Thank you. Susan?
So, as many of you know, I actually work out in the North Valley. So I work right along, just down the street from O'Brien Middle School, and the Family Resource Center has made the rounds in the business I'm in. So, a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people are talking about how they're able to actually access it. So, I have to let Brenda know I have to up my game in Sun Valley now. So. That's where we're going to stand. But it's really nice to hear people talk about going to O'Brien and actually accessing some of the Family Resource Center things out there. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I think there's no short order of kudos to you, Jesse. You really have really stood out. Not only, I mean, hearing what Susan said triggered a conversation that I had with a family that I know out there. They decided they wanted to provide some help, and they were fostering somebody's animal, and then it led to the conversation of some other needs. And so they really spoke highly when they sent them to you. They came back with nothing but good things to say. So it's really, I mean, it doesn't come up in everyday conversation, but hearing what Susan says, she's out there more than I am, but I hear it being in downtown Reno. So the word is getting around of the great work that not only you do, but every one of the resource centers.
I was going to say, it's truly a team effort, and we all do a lot for our community. So, yeah, it's nice to hear. So
Yeah,
it's appreciated. Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we move on to the next part of the presentation? No? All right, thank you, ladies. All right, it looks like Wiley's up with an amazing PowerPoint.
Hello, Council. Wiley Evanson for the record. Yeah, everybody's favorite part. I'm going to present on some data. I know, sorry I missed the last meeting, so I wasn't able to present on some of this last time, but my trusted colleagues did a great job, so thank you guys for covering for me in my absence last time.
Was it a basketball game? Where were you last?
I was, yes, basketball game. There's one tonight. I missed.
Let's make
to be
sure
here
the story
tonight.
is consistent.
So, go North Valley's girls basketball. Hopefully they win.
Yay.
But let me pull up the PowerPoint, and while Rochelle's getting it up as well. Also, just before I start this, if you guys have any, while we're going through, any recommendations or anything that you would like to see, happy to take notes. And if you like the formatting of like the dates and times and information, I can continue doing that. Or if you want to see year-to-dates over the years, I can do that, and I can do a full presentation on the last several years or just the last couple of years, however you guys want it to look. I'm happy to build these reports out in these PowerPoints so you guys can kind of see it a little bit.
So before we
visually.
offer that, I would ask that they come through me so that I can do it with you, because this is not an action item. So we
Okay.
don't want to provide direction.
All right, well,
But
Yeah.
yes, that is an opportunity. If there's something that you want to see different, we can work together, and I can provide some direction
Perfect.
for the next agenda.
perfect, thank you.
I just don't want you to get in trouble. Sarah's not here to kick me.
Thank you. Don't get me in trouble. All right, so first one up is the current data that we have for starting in July. So this is this fiscal year. So you can see the blue line here is July 1 through August 31st. So for 2 months. And you can see some of the numbers there. And then the orange graph here is starting September 1 and going through December 31st. So you can kind of see the trajectory that we're on. Most notably, food and nutrition is going to be up there if you look at it from a glance. Just because we were able to partner with the LDS churches over the Thanksgiving and Christmas holiday. So that's why that number looks pretty high. That includes all of our food box distribution, any of the basic needs and food supplies that we were able to purchase with our grant funding also show up in that category. So that's why that one is pretty high, and I'm sure you'll continue to see that to grow as we continue to give out food boxes and continue to partner with the Food Bank of Northern Nevada and the food pantries that we have. You can kind of see another one is our applications submitted. And our utility assistance and EAP applications are pretty high. That was because a lot of the clients and families that were coming for services for utility assistance through the SAFE program, we actually exhausted our funding for about I think it was in September, October. So a lot of those funds that we weren't able to use through SAFE ended up having to go through the Energy Assistance Program through the state of Nevada. So we submitted quite a few applications for energy assistance in lieu of not having the emergency assistance. And then With our grant funding, we did have some grant funding that we were able to spend at the end of the year, our fiscal year. So every center was able to purchase basic needs, food, hygiene, all those kind of different items. So that's why you see an uptick in the wellness and the hygiene kits, gift cards, clothing, lice kits, all those kinds of things. So that's why you see a little bit more uptick in that, because we were able to purchase a lot more hygiene kits with our grant funding. And then I forgot to put referrals on here. I apologize for that, but I can get that data and send it off to you guys so you guys can see that as well. Any questions on the current data?
Is there anything new or anything that stands out to you as to why the numbers are different? I know it's 2 months versus 3 months, so to be mindful of that, but.
No, I think we're about on track. I think we're staying pretty steady. Call volume, as you'll see later through CallRail, is staying pretty high. Clients know how to access us and how to get our information. And so I think it's staying pretty steady, and you're going to kind of see that continual rise as it continues to go up throughout the year. Just the biggest thing right now, I think, is the food and nutrition, because we have the ability and the resources around it with our food banks, with doing the food distributions through the LDS church. We've been able to help a lot of families with that. And then one thing that you'll see here is the emergency housing and rental assistance. I think you'll probably see that one go down a little bit, because we had some funding through some supplemental grants that we were able to get this last year, but those will be going away. We've exhausted some of that funding, and so we won't be able to continue the rental assistance, as well as other programs through State of Nevada, Reno Housing Authority, City of Reno have all exhausted a lot of their program funding. Other programs, other agencies, Catholic Community Charities, Salvation Army also have very limited funding, or they have exhausted their funding as well. So that one you might see a little bit of a change in, because we still see the need. There's lots of families calling for rental assistance, but there's very minimal resources available to get out to the families in that area.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. So next up is the CallRail. Sorry, it's a little small. CallRail data is about on par on the same. Lots of you can see right there the biggest chunk at the top on the left here, at least from my side, is the FRC call flow. So that's our main number that everybody calls into, and then they can pick which center that they want to be directed to. So that one has our biggest call volume. It looks like we're sitting at about 1,800 calls just from September to December. So for those months there, call volume's been pretty high through that call flow. And that doesn't include people that are calling directly into the centers or calling the direct lines because every advocate and FRC director has their own individual phone numbers, so families can reach out via text or call those direct lines. So but you can see North Valley's has a high population of calls as well, Sun Valley, Sparks, and Central. And we're answering, you can see on there, out of the 1,800 calls that total that came in, 1,400 were answered in that first go around. So that means we're getting to those calls and getting them answered and getting out the information to them, and then making sure that we have a call flow that everybody monitors throughout our centers. So if anything does get missed, we always give them a call back. Even if they don't leave a voicemail, we can still track where that phone call came from and give them a call back and make sure that we follow up with them so nobody slips through the cracks. And there's some different stuff on CallRail. Like I said, if you guys want to see additional information or kind of more in-depth or in detail information on CallRail, we can definitely provide that. And then I don't know if we can log in. I wanted to share a little bit of the information on the about Google on our reviews and some of our information. This is where people can leave reviews and access a lot of our information. Google also has a lot of analytics that they provide in it. So let me see if I can pop over here and pull this up real quick. All right, so from over here, you can see, I'll just pick up on Central Reno so you can see this is what it actually looks like when you type in Central Reno Family Resource Center and see our information. The cool thing about Google has this performance piece, so you can see on here an overview of how many people are interacting with our Google website page and Googling us. So as down here at the bottom, you can see about 5,000 people have interacted with our page, either searching through their mobile apps or a desktop or Google Maps to try to find our location. And then on the right-hand side here, about 1,000 searches showed based on these breakdowns. So you can kind of see what people are actually searching when they are looking for this information. So looks like Family Resource Center Reno, FRC, rental assistance, things like that is what's directing them towards our page. So that's some good information, I think, for us to know what people are looking for when they're trying to find our locations and our information. It shows like website clicks on how many times people are clicking around to see our information. If we did bookings and messages and all that kind of stuff, we could add in that information. So I can also show you another quick one. I think Sparks has the highest information and most data on their performance page. Maybe not. So just I wanted to show you guys a little bit of information about what Google can kind of show us and the data that we're collecting from Google as well, based on how many people are searching for us and how they're trying to find us. It's very different across all centers when you look at the search results and what people are actually keying into Google to try to find our locations. So I thought that was some information that would be good and helpful for you guys.
Thank you, Wiley. To the council, is there anyone with questions for Wiley on the data he presented?
Just the Google location information is awesome. That's cool data.
Okay, Wiley, I think you're off the hook.
All right, thank you. And then, if you guys want to see any different information, always happy to provide that and include that in the presentation as well. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, with that, that'll bring us to our closing items. Item 3.01 is public comment. Rochelle, is there any public comment?
There is none.
All right. Next meeting announcement is March 15th of 2023. And with that, it's 7:16, and I will call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you, Susan, Rachel, and Sarah for joining us virtually.
Great meeting.
Thank you very much.